Well, hello good people, I'm Dmitry, and I've had the P600S from Phanteks for about 4 months now, and this has been my main production machine. It's been on for at least 8 hours a day for 4 months, so it has gotten a lot of airflow through it, and one of the main concerns from people about this enclosure has been dust accumulation over time because of this whole fabric performance mesh at the front and the top. Now, I initially wanted to place my Threadripper system inside the P600S. Unfortunately, this case does not support eATX motherboards, which is what my Threadripper system is all about. So instead, let me show you how I clean my system and see exactly how dirty it has gotten on the interior and what has happened with the fabric mesh and all the dust filters. Let's begin after this.
The new Razer Blade Stealth defines portability without compromising on performance, featuring Intel's latest 8th-gen CPU, an NVIDIA MX 150 GPU, up to 16GB of memory, and up to 13 hours of battery life. Experience some of the most popular games wherever you are. Learn more about the Blade Stealth down below.
Alright, so the first thing I will say is just how happy I am with that exterior performance mesh. Surprisingly, it has not been clogged up by dust particles, and its condition is almost as day one, but I will say the second layer of this performance fabric is slightly more gray than the first, but a quick vacuum cleans it up. And it turns out that it's the front dust filter that has accumulated a lot of that dust in the past 4 months, and it's really only during this sort of analysis that I can appreciate a quality dust-proof design. Not only is the filter flush against the frame, meaning nothing gets through the sides, but both panels have these rubber seals to close off any potential dust entrance via smaller openings. For airflow, I got 2 fans installed at the front, and that is evident by the dust gradient, which looks hilarious. And again, I'm surprised that not more of these fine particles are stuck to the more coarse performance mesh at the front. I vacuumed up the dust filter, but due to the really fine nature of the threading, I'd recommend washing the filter as well to remove anything that wasn't picked up by the suction. And now we're basically back to day one cleanliness of this front panel. Now, the fan blades collect dust as well, and it's a good indication of how much dust is penetrating the front filter. I vacuumed the bigger stuff carefully and cleaned up each blade with a damp paper towel, and I'm honestly a bit surprised just how dirty things have gotten in just 4 months. If that is an indication of how clean my space is, then my space is not very clean. And moving inside, the dust adventures continue with a thin layer on the PSU shroud and about the same on top of the GPU that might settle through the top mesh or get sucked through the PCI slots, although the back of the case is very clean, so I don't think the GPU fans are sucking in all that dust. Also, the rear fan is much cleaner than the front ones. Now, to clean this, I use a damp microfiber cloth, and that is something you should avoid doing because of the static that it might create, but mine was wet and I navigate carefully. What surprised me the most, however, is how dirty the radiator was, almost on the same level as the front dust filter. And yes, I have used this all-in-one cooler in another machine for about 2 weeks, but it spent majority of its time inside the P600S, and that is really alarming. It looks like whatever dust finds its way inside the case is sucked through the top exhaust, which is why it gets so clogged up instead of it coming through the rear. And the best way to clean the rad fins is not with a vacuum cleaner like I noob here, but with a dust blower. And also looks like because I'm exhausting through the top, the mesh here is also surprisingly clean like the front, despite all that settling dust. And the last thing I do is a final sweep with my manual air blower to pick up any particles around the pump and the GPU, and now my system is fully cleaned up inside and out. And so it turns out, to no surprise, that the dust front accumulation and the clogged up radiator was a massive airflow bottleneck, as we're now running 10 degrees Celsius cooler on the CPU at load after the cleanup. And that makes sense, removing a lot of the dust particles from the radiator and the front, and also the noise profile of the system with full RPM on the fans. It's much quieter. I'm guessing there's less turbulence and just airflow is exiting and entering without too much restriction. And to be honest, I was expecting the front mesh and the top mesh to be completely full of dust, of like tiny dust particles, and lose its black color given the distribution of those fine particles on the interior, but I'm guessing a lot of that dust just goes right through based on the design of the threading of that performance mesh, and a lot of the dust is being caught by the actual dust filter instead. But man, I was not expecting such drastic CPU temperature difference. It's a good reminder to periodically clean your system so it runs cleaner and cooler. And now I have to be thinking about my Threadripper system and what case I should choose for the EATX motherboard. I wish that the P600S supported that larger motherboard size, but it doesn't. So why don't we decide this together? What should be my next case for that monster Ryzen system that I have sitting right there and waiting to chew through DaVinci Resolve and through some games as well, and just prepare for my eventual return back to AMD. So let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Dmitry. Check out this other relevant content. Subscribe if you love this content, and stay clean, my friends. Your system and you deserve it.